Welcome to another episode of the Direct Care Derm. I am very happy to be here today with Luká Yancopoulos. Luká is a visionary entrepreneur and the driving force behind Grapevine, a groundbreaking startup transforming the healthcare supply chain landscape. Since its launch in 2022, Grapevine has made significant waves in the industry, earning the prestigious President's Innovation Prize the same year for its outstanding innovation and entrepreneurship. Under Luká's leadership, Grapevine has secured over $1.5 million in funding and partnered with more than 400 businesses across the U.S. The platform developed by Luká and his team enables clients to save up to 50% on medical supply costs, reduce order times by over 90%, and seamlessly work with multiple vendors, thereby accelerating procurement and delivery processes. He addresses critical issues in the healthcare supply chain, including unveiling the hidden costs of single supplier dependency in healthcare supply chains. We'll absolutely be talking about that today. The inefficiencies in medical goods movement, warehousing costs in medical supplies. This is a hidden killer. Managing back orders in large hospitals, embracing digital transformation. Luká's thought leadership has been featured on prominent podcasts such as the Healthcare Leadership Experience, Healthcare Untold, and Health Innovators Show. His insights have appeared in notable publications, including Medical Economics, Healthcare Express, and Healthcare Business Today. Additionally, Grapevine has been highlighted in major outlets like USA Today and Benzinga. Luká Yancopoulos continues to inspire and educate healthcare professionals on the importance of digital transformation in supply chain management, and that's what he's going to be doing with us today. Now, that was a lot, but I think it's important given your accomplishments and what you're trying to do for this field. It sounds a little bit like Grapevine is sponsoring the show today. They are not. We're just getting to know Luká and his company, and I'm actually using Grapevine as we speak to try to get my practice off the ground in terms of supplies and learn actually how we do this as an individual solo practitioner. This is one of the huge roadblocks in becoming an independent doc and getting out of these big systems that take care of all this stuff like this for us. So without further ado, Luká, thank you so much for being here today with us. Feel free to tell us anything else about you and your story, maybe how you got to Grapevine, take us back a little bit. I think my listeners always enjoy learning about that. And again, just thanks for being here.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you twice for having me on the show and for giving Grapevine an opportunity to help you out in the founding of your own business.
Right.
And sure, yeah, to give a little more context about how we got started, the wise folks say adversity is often the parent of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And we got started from our college dorm room on the UPenn campus, me and some of my best friends from childhood and from University of Penn. And COVID hit. We were quarantining in our dorm rooms. My mother is a nurse practitioner and my dad's a scientific researcher. And I was frankly scared of the horror stories I was seeing on the news related to supply chain failure and medical supply shortage and rising costs. I was scared that my parents were at risk of contracting this terrifying disease that frontline workers were exposed and risk. And that was something that hit home for me. So me and my friends used the skills that we had at our disposal to dive into the medical supply chain for really the first time, aggregating data from different sources and trying to put it to good use to solve some of these headliner problems.
There's so many parts about that are worth delving into and commendable and fun. Actually, it sounds like fun. I'm sure there was some stress, but you're doing it with your friends. You're in your dorm room, right? It's the classic stories that we hear. We hear about Zuck being in the dorm room and then how far they've come. But you just saw a problem and you said, maybe we can do something about this. And even though it was a seeming problem. But was it fun? Tell me about those early days.
It was a lot of fun. I've heard from my parents, my mentors and whatnot that it's time to grow up. But I think I'm one of the lucky people that has figured out that you don't need to grow up to succeed and you don't need to grow up to provide value to the world. I feel like I'm still a little kid and that I work with my childhood best friends every single day. Not much has changed. We have a new mission, a new passion, and we're making a bigger impact than ever. But every day feels not that different from when I was 10 years old with a lot of these guys.
Good for you. I think a huge lesson there that a lot of physicians especially need to hear and need to learn and embrace is that work doesn't have to suck. It's going to suck sometimes, but it doesn't have to feel like work or feel terrible or any of those things to be considered work that is worth doing and that is contributing value. And if you allow yourself to feel that way, it can really be life changing, and you can end up adding a lot more value and being a lot more successful if you adopt that mindset. That I've deal with that a little bit in my own life because I've transitioned from just head down, go in the morning at 8 a.m., start seeing patients, and then feel like you don't take a breath until the end of the day when you go back home, and then do it again the next day. And it's hard for that to feel like fun. And now almost every part of my working day feels like fun. And I have to allow myself to say, you're still doing work, you're still adding value, even though it feels like fun. And so I commend you for learning that lesson and embracing that so early in your life.
Yeah, and I think a lot of ambitious people take a bit of pride in gritting
Yeah.
through the hardest, most tedious sort of things in the workday.
Mhm.
And I do think that with the right partners and business partners and software solutions and whatnot, you can actually relieve yourself of a lot of those tedious things, do the things you enjoy most, and ultimately deliver the most unique value to your customers, in your case, your patient.
Yeah.
For example, you, Stephen, you shouldn't be dealing with the headaches of supply chain, right? Obviously, by working with a partner like Grapevine, you can outsource some of
Yeah.
the pain, headaches, and problem solving
Mhm.
to another organization and focus on delivering the best possible patient care. And at the end of the day, that's why we do what we do at Grapevine. It's to let you focus on what's most important to you and your patients while cutting the costs for your business, which in turn cuts the costs of patient care, right?
You hit the nail on the head. Scott Galloway talks about healthcare as having the biggest chin of any industry there is right now, just waiting for that uppercut for whoever's willing to give it, because there's so much money. Everything is already so expensive. And the patient experience, the outcomes, any sort of measure of the value is relatively low. So you have this high cost, low value, low experience type of $1 trillion industry. You can come in and make this buying stuff experience fun and easy and cost less money because of the gap with what the incumbents are doing, who, in my opinion, simply take advantage of big corporations who don't need to penny pinch. They have these huge coffers and they have their contracts with Medline or McKesson or whatever, and the price is what it is. I saw that when the employer I used to be with, we were outfitting a new place. I looked at these Mayo stands that they were buying, and they were literally steel carts, little stand to put some tools on. And I said, "Hey, I found one that looks really comparable. It's about $150." And they said, "We have a contract with Medline." But then they turn
Mind blowing.
around and tell us that we have to work for less every year because the budget is tight, times are tough, the business isn't making a lot of money. And then when you look behind the curtain and stuff like that, you realize how you're being taken advantage of as a physician, as a nurse, as a hardworking part of the team. So the fact that Grapevine can come in and do a better job and make it less expensive is remarkable. And that can be done in every part of healthcare right now. That's what I'm doing. Every time I pitch my services to more of a niche payer that cares more about doctors than like a Blue Cross or Aetna or whatever the big ones do, I tell them what I'll do a service for, and their jaw drops because of how low the number is, even though it's a number that I feel respectable saying, and I'm proud to do it for that amount. And that's just due to this huge gap, what things cost and what the value that people are getting for it now. So thank you for coming into the supply chain space and modernizing it and helping save people like me money, but also saving the country money as well. Tell me where it started to feel more like, oh, this plane is actually taking off. This was just an idea. We were trying to throw some code together. We're scraping data. We're all of a sudden, did someone come calling? Did someone hear about it? When was the first time you heard from someone who may have wanted to make an investment in the business because you have raised some money? Tell me about that.
We're big believers that real businesses and real disruptors must provide value first to real people, solve real problems, and the financial well-being of the business follows that. It is tied to that. If you do great things onto the world does great things back to you. So we started by aggregating the data, connecting some dots of smaller, decentralized, specialists, if you will, or small circuit importers of just a few product lines directly to people like my mom's office, right? So we connected my mom's office to a dozen different importers of specialty products, and they were able to piece together and order everything they needed. And that was a huge win for us, but we were far from we didn't even have a business at that point. We were still just kids in our dorm room. Doing the same for other people, frontline workers that we knew of in need. And the word spread pretty fast through the grapevine, if you will. And it wasn't long after that that one of these major medical distributors, it was actually McKesson, we ended up getting a phone call from someone working with McKesson or at McKesson, and they're offering to send us an order for a ton of these supplies that we've been delivering to their customers as we've been trying to steal their customers, which was funny to us. We didn't have a business. We didn't know really what they meant by sending us an order, but we ended up rapidly setting up a business and taking orders from McKesson. So McKesson, who, when this is all said and done, we hope to bury McKesson, cut their revenue in half, and force them in a race to the bottom on the sale of supplies because we're eliciting competition and making this sort of a more fair market. But they may have built the grave that they'll end up sleeping in. Once the pandemic starts dying down, and once we got to look inside of the McKessons of the world by selling them huge amounts of medical supplies through the pandemic and continue to do what we were doing direct to the frontline workers, we knew that we had the opportunity to take a step back, look at this from more of a bird's eye view, take what we'd learned and rebuild sort of a new software directly for specialty practices, smaller practices, physician groups that are trying to be independent and looking for opportunities to save money. And that's where the birth of Grapevine came, which was a little ways after we became an official business. And with the idea of Grapevine, that's where we ended up sort of raising money. And the first investor, if you will, was University of Pennsylvania, Wharton.
Nice.
Yeah, we also had then a couple of venture capitalist partners that they introduced us to, and different investors being at Stanford, MIT, at the MBA fund, and different venture capitalists that ended up coming to us and wanting to invest. We actually recently did a round. So the bio at the beginning of this podcast was a little up. To date, we've actually raised just about $4 million.
Nice. Congratulations. That's wonderful. And thank you for making that update and sharing that background with us. I'm super interested in all that stuff because that's how it's innovation. I was just listening to something earlier. A lot of people think it's super risky to be an entrepreneur. It's actually the opposite of that is usually true. Entrepreneurs are trying to mitigate risks all day long. We are trying to figure out, how does this thing not fail? How do we make good, smart decisions, especially pre-venture funding? If you're venture funded, it is a little bit of a different game. You might be backed by a firm that know that one of their bets is going to pay off, and that makes the business model work for them. So they want you to behave a little differently than a small town guy or gal who's starting a landscape business. But nonetheless, we are still trying to mitigate risks in all areas and keep costs low. And that allows us to be profitable and also keeps costs low for our customers, hopefully. I want to paint a little picture for people who still might be saying, okay, I think I might know what Grapevine is, but I'm not quite sure yet. The cool thing about this is that I am currently using the product because I have an office, a single room that I've rented that is not up and running yet. It's about 130 square feet, and I have this empty office, and I, as a board certified dermatologist who's been employed for 4 years by people, and there were lots of people, way too many people working at those organizations to do all the other stuff. But nonetheless, there were always someone to take care of it. Everything was outfitted, and I had not a lot of input in that, but I didn't have to worry about it either. So now I go from that to this empty room and got to say, okay, I think I can think of maybe 20 or 30 things that are in the room that I'm used to working in, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm not going to know. And where do I get it? How do I not get ripped off? Do I need to join a group purchasing organization? I'm this little guy, all this stuff. And that overwhelm, I think, stops a lot of people from hanging their shingle and going off on their own. So you're doing a great job solving that problem. Grapevine is a platform where I log in and I'm shopping like any other online shopping experience. And I can have my accounts at the big vendors like McKesson, Medline, Henry Schein, things like that. And all of those are integrated in this. And I see discounted prices because of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but because of negotiations with Grapevine. And I get to put any of those things in my cart that I need. And I actually asked you all, it seems like you have had a really good success story with a dermatologist in the past. Can you put together a little list of things that they typically buy? And your co-founder did that almost immediately. And I'm in there and it says Derm List 1. I click Derm List 1 and all these things. I don't need them all, but it filters it almost immediately. And I get to emulate this very successful dermatology practice in terms of what they're buying. And that compared to, okay, I got to go on a Medline for this, McKesson for this, Henry Schein for this, and I don't know if I'm getting a good price, and they're all coming from different places. This basically just makes me feel like I'm on Amazon, but for my practice, and I know I'm saving money. Add some color to that, correct anything that might be incorrect about the business model. Feel free to tell people about how you all make money as well. I think transparency is really important. I don't pay anything for the service, but you all have to make money. So if you don't mind sharing that, and then, yeah, just make sure that I got it right. And you can even feel free to say what kind of savings I was looking at.
Absolutely. I think you did a great job explaining it, especially from the space that you stand
Yeah.
in, Stephen. At Grapevine, or like a build your own shopping center,
Mhm.
right? We allow you, just like you said, to integrate all of your different existing sort of supplier contracts or accounts. So if you work with Medline, Henry Schein, McKesson, all you do is you type in your login credentials to those different websites. We read in your existing prices. If you have GPOs applied, those are applied now in
Nice.
Grapevine. And you can punch out orders directly to your same old sales rep, preserving the valuable relationship you have, preserving the negotiated
That's
prices
good.
you might have directly with any of these bigger guys.
So they still like Connor, my guy at one of these companies, or Sean, I think maybe is one of the other ones. They still get rewarded for their hard work if it's a commission based or something like that. And that's important to me. You're not undercutting those hardworking sales reps.
Exactly.
Yeah, good.
Those guys still oversee every single order.
Yeah.
They still own your account
Okay.
as you placed orders.
Okay.
And yeah, the relationship is completely preserved as is. You are a well-versed guy in entrepreneurship, Stephen. I don't know if you've heard of the innovator's paradox,
I
right?
have, yeah.
But yeah,
But
for those
share,
who are
tell it.
listening, the innovator's paradox is the idea that when you're trying to innovate or do something new, there come challenges for people to digest that change. Even if it's change for the better, we can struggle to adopt that change because we're ultimately scared of change. And
Yeah.
deep down inside all of us, there's a bit of self-preservationist and wanting things to stay the same and traditionalism. With that said, healthcare, I think, faces that more than almost any other industry, right? People say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. In healthcare, when you try to fix it and you make a mistake, that change could lead to loss of life. It could lead to mistreatments. It could lead to serious problems. So people are more scared in this space to adopt change than almost any other space. And that's led to this great Habsburg chin, if you will, that the healthcare industry has. So we try to preserve what's important for people.
Good for you.
In order to take them into the future and take them to tomorrow, we want to preserve the things that matter most about today. And the relationships you have with your existing suppliers are exactly one of those things. That's why we preserve the relationships you have. Most people, when they start Grapevine, they do have more of an established business. And where we start is just continue ordering from your existing suppliers. You already have an account with Henry Schein and Medline. Link them together and make sure that when you order these like Becton Dickinson needles or syringes, right? Becton Dickinson is a manufacturer, right? They don't have any loyalties to Medline, McKesson, Schein, whoever. You look at that same product across your 3 different portals, the Medline, Henry Schein, McKesson portals, and you'll see totally different prices, right? So it's Grapevine's job to bring all of those different options into one screen and redirect you to the smartest source every time you shop. And we start with the same products you already buy, or the same products maybe another business buys in your case, and making sure it is the smartest source, preserving your relationships and just redirecting traffic to the best of your existing suppliers. And once we've done that, and if you're comfortable and willing to adopt more change, that's where things get really exciting. And that's where we become this AI-powered version of something you mentioned earlier, right? You mentioned this $900, I think it was like some sort of
Mayo stand. Yeah.
Mayo stand, and maybe there's a slightly different brand,
Yeah.
right? That's $150. Grapevine's AI-powered systems are going out. They're looking across all of the different suppliers that exist in the world, finding ones that are comparable enough for your specialty, your type of practice to what you're currently using, and start suggesting substitute things to switch to that aren't the same brand just from a smarter source, but maybe connecting with a new source altogether, directly to a manufacturer, cutting out a middleman and his markup where you can, ordering and shipping directly from the source and avoiding inefficiencies. And not only does this allow you to go from maybe 30% savings to 60% savings, but it also allows you to build more of a supply, not chain, not like a linear chain as you can imagine in your mind's eye, but a network, right? They say that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link.
There you go.
A network allows for link swapping. When one chain breaks, McKesson runs out of the supplies that you need. Are you going to sit there and wait? No, Grapevine is automatically going to plug in an alternative source, maybe a better price, maybe a worse price, right?
Yeah.
Like it depends on the circumstance, and give you a breadth of options from alternative sources to keep your supply chain moving under all circumstances. And if there was another pandemic to hit, another supply chain disruption at that scale, anyone using Grapevine would be armed and ready to take that on and wouldn't miss a beat. They wouldn't be exposing frontline workers to any increased risk.
Yeah.
And during the good times, this optimization of a network rather than a dependence on a linear chain or one major supplier allows you to save up to 65% on your supply spend. And Stephen said I could say it, so I'll say it. Just opening the gate, right? Compared to Stephen working directly with the middlemen and his existing supplier network, we're already looking at about 40% savings. And Stephen's pretty new to using the platform. I expect it to go up as we continue to work together.
Fantastic. There are a couple things I'm hearing based on that. The first one is about the healthcare being different, and it is. This is not a move fast and kill people type of thing. Like, we do have to consider the unique nature of healthcare, and we have to understand why innovation has been slower in healthcare. These are people's lives. We totally get that. We are not making an app for people to waste time on while they're on the subway and get some attention and sell some ads and things like that. You are helping improve the healthcare supply chain that gets people potentially life-saving equipment and things like that. So it's not move fast, break things. It's not move fast, kill people, like I said before, but it's also not accepting it's healthcare and it's people. So this is just the way it is. That's the biggest thing that I saw when I was in what I call now big hospital or big healthcare. That's the most common refrain I would hear from senior leaders when I would bring something up and say, why is it like this? This is crazy. And they would just say, that's just the way it is, or that's what everybody does. It blows your mind when you get to peek behind the curtain. So that's the first thing. It doesn't mean innovation is forbidden in healthcare, but it means we have to do it a different way. We have to be a bit more cautious and move more slowly. And that's okay, but it shouldn't prohibit innovation. It's the old fax machine joke. I think about this all the time. Fax machines do not make things any safer, but we like to say, oh, they just got a HIPAA and whatever. And no.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of excuses not to innovate. And it's excuses that there's a reason for it. It's by design. The incumbents like it the way it is. It's an incredibly profitable business in this country for the incumbents. So they want it to stay the way it is. And that goes for health insurance and every aspect of it. Everyone who's already playing in that sandbox is very happy with their prices and their profit margins, and they do not want things to change. So it's good that there are people trying to make changes that benefit patients and the hardworking care teams who are trying to deliver that care in ways that don't compromise patient care. And we were talking about costs as well. It's not necessarily, I want the least expensive version of this item. Quality matters too. A lot of people, they're doing their Botox. I use the BD, the insulin syringe or whatever, and I'm never going to stop using that. And I will know if they change their manufacturing practices, me and my patient are going to know immediately and things like that. So that's not what we're looking at either. We just don't want that ripped off, and that the middle people, all of these little games that are playing, we don't want people to be able to get away with that. And when you're a lean startup like mine is, it actually matters to the bottom line. I can't afford to get ripped off like my former employer can afford to. I don't get to call myself a not-for-profit company like they get to call themselves. So I have different tax status as well. So I think those two things are important to point out, but it's just a business that is modernizing things. It's making that doctor who's coming out of residency right now, who's a digital native basically at this point and expecting things to be a certain way. That's the same way that I approach my practice. I have what's called a virtual first practice. That doesn't mean I only see people virtually, but it means I flip the paradigm on its head and say, if someone calls me and says, I have a rash and I would like to see you, the default is that we can text about it. We can get on a phone call. We can get on a video call, and you never have to leave your house. You might live 3 hours away, even if you're still in Wisconsin, and we can maybe get it taken care of. And you can come in the office if it can't safely or reasonably be done virtually, or you just want to come in. I don't want to see a doctor virtually. I want to come in. There you go. The default is the much more efficient option. And that's, in my opinion, just innovation. I took care of somebody while I was on the elliptical at the gym the other day. We were just texting back and forth, and I solved their problem and I gave her advice. She was grateful. There's nothing in the law of healthcare that says a doctor isn't allowed to do that. But I think that's often how we operate. But I'm soapboxing now, but I just think that the innovation is really important. And it's a hugely exciting time to be anywhere in medicine if you have that mindset.
I totally agree. And I think that is absolutely innovation, dude. And I think it's a great idea. I often find myself just as a patient, right? Thinking, I don't need to go in
No,
for this appointment,
exactly.
but I can't get whatever it is, an opinion from the doctor
Yeah.
or antibiotic for my infected toe. I know this thing's
Yeah.
infected. It's pussing
Mhm.
everywhere. I just didn't have nope, I got to drive 45 minutes in. So I'm
They got to
totally
bill
with you
you.
there. I think that's a huge innovation
They got to
change. Yeah.
maximize the billing that they possibly can because that's what their boss says. I totally hear you.
Our solution here at Grapevine for the innovator's paradox is a concept we call 1159. And it's this idea that with 1159, you can get people to embrace a better future, no matter where they're at today. And it's built on this idea that change is scary, especially in this space, and people are terrified of what the future holds. And that's why you need to take your customer, or in your case, maybe your patients, to the edge of today. At that point, Grapevine takes your hand and we will leap with you into tomorrow. You need to understand what the customer did before without their habits, know what they appreciate, their comforts, what they cherish in their existing way, preserve some of what they know, some
Yeah.
of what they did before us. And then when we present our customers with a gift from the future, a gift that is tomorrow, they will accept that gift and learn to love it. If you can bring them to 1159, then the jump into tomorrow is just another silly minute away.
Yeah.
So our solution there is 1159 and innovation that is appetizing and digestible.
Yeah, for sure. And you're doing a great job of that already. And one thing that made me think about, and that I am very conscious of in my practice, and you likely are with your business as well, is that we're not forcing tomorrow on people. And they're just like the virtual first thing. If I have a patient, they're very typical type of patient that I could imagine, maybe 75-year-old. They have a rash on their arm, something that would be amenable to a video visit, sending some high quality pictures. Let's try some stuff. If it's not working, get you in the office, maybe you need a biopsy, who knows? But we can do it very safely and ethically through a virtual visit. They say, it's just not for me, doc. I like to go to the doctor. I'm not going to argue with them. Of course not. Come on in. But the value proposition is I might be able to see you today if you want to do this virtually. If you want to come see me
Yeah.
in the office, I got an appointment next Thursday or whatever. I'm not going to have I'm not never going to say the next appointment is 6 months from now. And that is what a lot of dermatology practices say. And they somehow have no shame in saying that because they take their customers for granted because they're huge businesses. And that you got to look no further than just it's a service industry. And if you think about service industries that don't take their customers for granted, you're going to go to their website. It's going to be an amazing experience, likely. And again, I'm talking service industries. I'm not talking Walmart or something like that, even though they have a great website too, because they don't take their customers for granted. You go to a typical big hospital type of corporate medicine website, there wasn't much thought put into that. So I just think it's really important to, like you said, walk people to the edge. And if they don't want to take that next step, they don't have to. But you make it a
Absolutely.
lot easier for them to take that next step if there was just some fear or some limiting beliefs or some misunderstanding, something like that, that you could help them with. You're just a guide, and so am I in so many ways. A great guide gets compensated well for their services. If I'm going to go to Dublin and have someone show me around and tell me about all the history, and they have a great way of communicating, and I'm having fun, we're all laughing, we go to the pub, that person's going to get a great tip. And I hope I paid a good amount to have them share the day with me. So I don't really know where I'm going right now, but it's fun to think about all we can do, but still in an ethical way that's not pushing anything on anyone.
Absolutely. And I think this is where you're going with the tip and the making money or getting rewarded for the good that you do unto the world.
How do you make money?
How do we make money? So as we preserve your status quo, we do that as a nonprofit service. We actually do not make money as long as you continue working with the exact same suppliers that you do. It's when we create savings,
Okay.
right? When we get you to switch to a new product, whether that's a new product from one of your existing vendors, or that's connecting you and unlocking a new supplier altogether that you may not even have known existed. And there's a ton of dermatology-oriented distributors, manufacturers in the US selling stuff primarily to the McKessons of the world, but also directly to practice. And they want to sell directly to
And
practice.
those people don't take their customers for granted.
And they
But
don't.
I don't
They
know
absolutely
about them
don't.
because they don't have the marketing budget and that incumbent power.
Exactly. So as you unlock sort of these new relationships or unlock savings through Grapevine, then we take a percentage
Okay.
of those savings, right?
A
So
finder's
we
fee, basically.
yeah,
You're finding new clients for them, new business, lead generation, all that. Yeah,
exactly.
that's great.
Yep. And it'll effectively get to you one way or another, but it's taken out on the supplier side, right? So we just take a stable somewhere between 3 and 10%, depending on the product category and our it costs.
And you're essentially a very good salesperson in showing me, hey, there's this other thing. And if I end up buying that other thing, you get a commission on it. And that, as you should, because you're the one who showed it to me. I got value from it. I saved money. I found a good product. And the business that's giving you the commission found a new customer. And who knows what the lifetime
Absolutely.
value of a business like mine. I'm little right now, but 5 years from now, who knows?
Absolutely. And it is is the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not going to send, which you'll get if you reach out to Medline. Let's say you've historically worked with Kesson and now you reach out to Medline, save money by bringing Medline on some of these products or working with them all together. What you're going to get from a Medline sales rep, and we know because we work with hundreds of Medline sales reps, is a spreadsheet. It's going to take them a month to give it to you. A spreadsheet of here's what you buy now. You could get blah, blah, trying to compare apples to oranges in a spreadsheet, which is almost impossible. You need to see the product, feel the product. And two, again, look, it's not easy. It's not where you shop that you realize those savings. In Grapevine, it's as simple as the products that you've always bought get automatically integrated and read into Grapevine as you shop. So we see your preferences and your willingness to change. You add to cart your usual item, say like a BD syringe. A pop-up will appear and say, hey, we know you love the BD syringes. We know you'll never change off the BD insulin syringes. So here's the BD syringe, but this time it's from Medline. Do you want to just replace it in your cart? Boom, checkout, done.
Gotcha.
And that's the end of the story. So you'll actually see these savings opportunities appear before your eyes as you shop, as you add to cart. You'll never need to look at a spreadsheet for at least those sort of services. And the realizing of the savings, the unlocking of new suppliers is something that's done with a click of a button, not done with PDFs, faxing, paperwork, back and forth emails.
Beautiful. And that is leveraging technology in a safe and ethical way to unlock some arbitrage for both of us. I'm buying exactly the same product, but I don't have time in my day to log into Medline and then log into McKesson. And I don't want to pay someone to just do that. These processes get so tedious that we just hire another person to completely do that, kind of like biologic coordinations, these expensive medications. We hire literally coordinators for each practice. That's me right now. But we hire people because it's so expensive and it's so complicated, and that's all by design. But the physician's office bears the burden of that cost of dealing with that complexity. You're leveraging technology in a way that makes total sense. Just like I say to people, there are a lot of ways that people communicate these days. And it's not just talking on the phone or showing up at a physician's office. And there's nothing in the doctor Bible that says you can't text a patient and help them with a small thing while they're at work or at their kid's soccer game and you're on the treadmill or whatever, as long as you're doing it ethically, safely, all those things. I really look forward to working more with the system, experiencing those even more savings over time. And that point about connecting us with smaller suppliers, the little guys, I think there's a camaraderie in that. It's about more than just the money at that point. I'm a small guy. I want to meet the small guys and gals out there who are also hustling, who are also caring about customers and trying to innovate and trying to do a good job rather than taking me for granted because they know I have a big budget and I'm just going to send it to them every time because that's the way it is. Or we have a contract with Medline.
I think unbelievable. Like most people don't really realize this, but like 60% of Henry Schein's product offering or catalog, like when you go in there, something like 200,000 products, 60% of that, so more than 100,000 of those products are going to be sold directly by the manufacturer in the US. And the only thing that you're paying an extra 40, 50, 60% for is the convenience of a single screen. And that is, at the end of the day, what Grapevine is. It's the convenience of a single screen, but being able to instantly connect with any of those little guys across the map. And yeah, it is decentralization of power, and it is the little guys rising up to oust the big guys and avoid the burdens that every hospital has when you get to that scale, or you get that big or big healthcare systems where they hire entire procurement department and purchasing people and accounts payable people. That department is automated and powered by AI. And you are now just focusing on what doctors should be focusing on.
Yes. I want you to talk to me a little bit about the warehousing costs that I mentioned at the top of the episode, warehousing costs in medical supplies, and someone on your team, or you had labeled that as a hidden killer. Tell us about that.
I've been referring to the middleman and their markup a lot, right? If there's a manufacturing plant in Florida, okay, and they manufacture it in Florida, and they have their warehouse literally in the same parking lot building, they just move it over to their warehouse. There's virtually no warehousing costs. They own the real estate. And now when you order it, you're basically paying for just the manufactured cost of good and the cost to actually ship it from their location, the manufacturing plant, directly to you. That is an ideal supply chain, right?
And a markup for their time and energy. Like that basically,
exactly.
This is into the weeds jargon, but Mark Cuban in his the pharmacy, cost plus drugs, he called it cost plus drugs because it's a cost plus model. This is how much it costs. Plus, this is our take. This is your price. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. Yeah. And unfortunately, when you're purchasing from someone like McKesson, you're going to incur basically 3, 4 maybe major additional costs to that ideal situation. Obviously, the manufacturing plant in the prior example is going to make their buck. But now McKesson is going to send trucks to go and pick it up from the manufacturing plant and bring it into their sort of centralized warehouse. What does that cost? That costs on average, depending on the medical supply, the product, how big it is, how much it costs on average like 10 to 20% markup just to bring it into their warehouse, the shipping costs there. Then they stick it in their warehouse. What are their warehouse operations costs? That's going to be another like 8 to 12% to have a guy basically move the stuff out of the truck onto the shelf. Now you order it. Now they move it off the shelf. They print a label. They stick it on there. It's going to cost someone maybe a half hour to do that for your cart of 22 products, right? Maybe even more, which is going to, again, cost you $1. And now finally, they need to ship it to you. And of course, everyone has free shipping. Free shipping is a beautiful, there's no such thing as free shipping. So now the cost of shipping again is 10 to 20%. And that's before McKesson makes a dime. They haven't made a single penny in this sort of setup. They marked it up 10 to 20% to ship it to their own warehouses. They mark it up for their own warehousing costs, and they market it up again to ship it to your door. Now, where do they make money? You've already lost basically a 30% markup by working with the middleman. Now they throw on an extra, in some cases, 100%, which is foul and disgusting. We can see, we work with many different customers of the McKessons of the world, and we can see that customer 1 buys the BD insulin syringe for, and I'm just an example, but maybe $100 a box. And customer 2 buys that same product for $45 a box from McKesson, just a different account manager. So we get to see these things at Grapevine because we're managing all that information and data. People don't realize that that is just the sort of true markup. So if you can go direct to the manufacturer, that thing that might range $40 to $100 from McKesson, depending on their markup and their appetite that day, can drop all the way down to $25, $30. And that is, I think, the end goal, the end game, the ideal supply chain. And the result from the most macro level is rather than $500 billion of US spend on medical supplies and pharmaceuticals, we believe that with Grapevine, the entire US sort of healthcare industry can cut that from $500 million to $250 million over the next 5 years. And that's our big goal.
That's your big, very audacious goal. That's beautiful. I think the American people and patients and other doctors can really get behind that when you communicate it that way. This is all, and again, it's by design. Nobody knows about this stuff unless you're really in the weeds. But imagine if everyone had their own account manager at Amazon and you start talking, you're like, wait, I paid $90 for that. For you, it was 70 because you have more money than me and you buy more stuff. Imagine Amazon's brand if that was their practice, if that was their business model. And that started getting around in the internet age.
And even worse. And then Amazon says, by the way, sign a contract. So if you buy from Walmart or anyone else, you're going to just have to pay us the money anyway. And I want you to sign an NDA so you don't post my prices or share my prices anywhere.
You're not allowed to tell other people about these business practices. That's by design as well. So I think communicating things like that is so important too, because we got to get people to listen. We got to get people to be able to relate to something like this. Because as soon as you say, supply chain logistics, like 99% of people are just going to turn off. Yeah, I want my stuff, but I don't care about it beyond that. People don't admire Jeff Bezos because he's a supply chain genius. They admire him because he's the founder of Amazon. But that's what Amazon is. Amazon is a incredible logistics and supply chain company. Maybe some people would say a web services company mostly now, but that's to be debated and irrelevant. He was a supply chain guy, just like you are. He realized there was a ton of value to unlock within supply chain and logistics if you frame it in a way that makes sense to people in terms of, hey, I can get you this thing for a lot lower cost and it's going to be easier and it's going to be fun and you're going to click one click to buy and all those things. I applaud you and your squad for doing what you're doing. Tell me about the team before we wrap up. I have been working with Will, your co-founder. He's amazing. This is another reason I like working with, as I mentioned before, a sweaty startup. You guys care about me and you're not going to say nothing's going to go wrong, but I report a bug and it gets addressed immediately. And I don't care. There's going to be bugs in my business too. But when I have a bug, I'm going to tell the patient immediately. I'm going to say, sorry, I'm going to fix it. So tell me a little more about the team right now. What does it look like? Maybe where is it going? Let's get a shout out to Will for sure, because he's been super helpful to me.
Yeah, shout out to Will. And yeah, I guess so. As far as the team, we've got now almost 30 employees,
Nice.
which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
We've got 5 co-founders. Will is one of those co-founders.
Gotcha.
Like I said earlier, these are my
Yeah,
best friends.
that's cool.
I've known Will since 7th grade. He's been my best friend, and he's not the only guy who's at this company
Mhm.
that I've been friends with for that long. I think that the foundation of this business is built in belief in one another and an ability to motivate each other to get the best out of each other. And when you have that at the core of your business, those hard days when
Yeah.
things go wrong or when you're feeling unmotivated, you've got other people who believe in you, who know you well, who know how to lift you up and get you back on the horse and get you going again. And that is a huge part of why I think we've been able to do what we've done here at Grapevine. And it's the main reason why we will become everything that I believe we will become. And it starts with the team. Our other best friend in 7th grade is here in Greg Chung. We've got friends of mine from college and university and Elijah Connell and Emma Davies. And even beyond that co-founding
Mhm.
group, my best friends in the world that aren't from prior to Grapevine are people that I've met through the Grapevine journey, either are customers or are new hires and new employees.
Good.
This is our world. It feels like a family or a social network in a lot of ways. And the company itself gives me everything I need to feel like a fulfilled, happy person.
Yeah.
So
Very cool.
I love the team.
What more could you ask for, essentially? That's all credit to you and the others for taking that leap and saying, yeah, maybe we can do something about this problem and look where you are now. I would love to check in maybe in 6 months or so, see how things are going. We're building alongside each other, and I'll share how my experience has been with Grapevine, how things have changed over time, the innovations that are being made, and you can share how things are going if you're willing to come back down the road. And we can even get into more brass tacks and details now that we know your story and have familiarity with you and Grapevine. We don't have to spend as much time on that. So it would be awesome to do some deep dives down the road.
I think that would be awesome. And obviously, let's keep the door of communication open in the meantime. You've already had some great ideas, Stephen, that have made its way into our software development
Okay.
pipeline. And I want to hear those ideas as they come in. I want to hear the issues as they come up. And obviously, Will has been communicating them to me. I have heard a lot about these issues, obviously, before getting on the call. And we want to get better and improve every day. And the better communication we have, the better we can serve you and deliver
Awesome.
value to your budding business.
Beautiful. When you're looking to get your chief medical advisor in the dermatology service line, let me know where the application is and I'll throw some funding your way and see where we can go. This is exciting. It's cool to work with companies like you. Thanks for making my life easier. Thanks for making it easier for independent physicians to be successful independent physicians. I think those are the best doctors, and the best doctors make the best patients and the healthiest patients. It allows us to do actually what we were trained to do rather than just trying to keep up with the hamster wheel of how can I generate the most revenue by business based on these archaic coding and billing and MIPS and macro and all that stuff that we're so bogged down by all day. You're making it a lot easier for us, and I look forward to continuing to use the platform. And thanks to you, thanks to Will, thanks to the members of your team, Adrian, and folks who reached out to me to set this up. I'm grateful to everybody. Tell me where you're based out of.
Yeah, we're based out of the Big Apple, New
Awesome.
York City.
Beautiful. This looks like a gorgeous day. There is nothing like spring in Chicago. Spring in New York City, you cannot beat it. I lived there for 8 years. That's where I met my wife. The vibe is incredible when spring comes around.
Yeah, it is great. And onward and upward, we'll keep growing together, Steven.
Sounds good. I don't have to keep this in the show if you don't want to.
No,
operational security, OPSEC. But where are you? I lived in the Murray Hill area, and I went to NYU, so I was at the.
Oh, no way! I didn't.
Campus. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we're not far from NYU. We're in, I guess, NYU lingo, and I'm not sure exactly where.
That's
we're in the meatpacking.
Oh, meatpacking. Okay, yeah. That's closer to
NYU
proper. But yeah, the medical school is on like 32nd and First Ave or so. It's just south of the UN.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And we're maxed out our spaces. So we actually have like rotations of people coming in. Different employees work on different days just to make sure the space isn't overloaded. And we're moving into a much bigger office in Tribeca around the start of 2025.
Congratulations. Maybe I can come visit you someday then at your new office.
Yeah, I would love that.
All right. It's a great place to end. Luká, thank you so much again. And thanks to your parents. You mentioned your parents were Greek immigrants. Is that correct?
Yep, that is.
So they worked incredibly hard to allow you to have an opportunity to change the world like you're trying to do. So thank you to them as well. And just keep up the good work and keep fixing those bugs, and I'll keep buying stuff.
Thanks, Steven. Means the world.
Sounds good. Tell folks where they can find more about Grapevine, more about your company, your mission. How can, if they're a person like me starting to practice, but I don't really know what the heck I'm doing, how can they solve their supply chain problems?
You'll want to go to go-grapevine.com. That's go-grapevine.com. Grapevine as in that old song, Heard It, Grapevine. And yeah, as Steven said earlier, you could sign up for free. There's no cost. There's really no downside to getting started. Give it a shot and see what we can do. And it will make a huge dent in your books and your finances.
We will have that in the show notes as well, so people find that real easy. But again, go-grapevine.com if you want to learn more or connect with either Luká or any of his team. This has been another episode of the Direct Care Derm. Thank you for listening, and thanks to Luká for being here. We'll see you next week. Hey, Steven here. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way you can support a podcast is to share, follow, subscribe, and most importantly, leave an honest review on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast hosting platform. If you're new here, you might not feel ready to leave an honest review yet. That's totally fine. At the very least, keep listening and share it with one person in your life who you think might benefit from it. Thanks for being here. Your attention means the world to me. I'll see you on the next episode. If you like this and want to subscribe to my newsletter, head over to lewellismd.com. That's LEWELLISMD as in medical doctor.com.